Have you ever wondered what makes a true leader? Is it charisma? Is it strength? Or is it the ability to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat when all hope seems lost? Today, we're diving into a story that defines leadership under pressure, a moment that turned the tide of a revolution and forged a nation. This is the story of General George Washington and his daring gamble on Christmas Day, 1776. Picture this. It's the winter of 1776, the American Revolution, which had begun with so much hope and patriotic fire, is sputtering out. The Continental Army, led by General George Washington, is on the ropes. They've been chased out of New York, beaten back across New Jersey, and are now shivering on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River. It's been a brutal string of defeats. The soldiers are exhausted, freezing, and starving. Their uniforms are in tatters. Many don't even have proper shoes, leaving bloody footprints in the snow. To make matters worse, their enlistments are about to expire at the end of the year. Why would any of them re-enlist to face more hardship, more defeat, and likely death? The dream of independence was fading fast, looking more like a foolish fantasy than a reachable goal. The British and their hired Hessian mercenaries felt so confident that they thought the war was all but over. Congress had fled Philadelphia, and many colonists were starting to lose faith, even considering accepting a British pardon. The cause was on life support, and Washington knew it. He needed something more than just a win. He needed a miracle. He needed to do something so audacious, so completely unexpected, that it would reignite the dying embers of the revolution. In his headquarters, Washington wasn't just feeling the chill of the winter air. He was feeling the immense weight of a failing revolution on his shoulders. He knew that if he didn't act decisively, the Continental Army would dissolve, and the fight for independence would be over. The British commander, General Howe, had settled his troops into comfortable winter quarters, confident that the rebellion would collapse on its own. The Hessian soldiers, professional mercenaries from Germany, were stationed across the river in Trenton, New Jersey. They were formidable, disciplined fighters, but they were also celebrating Christmas, feeling secure and relaxed. This is where Washington saw his sliver of an opportunity. He decided to plan a surprise attack. It was a plan born of pure desperation, a high-stakes roll of the dice. He would split his forces into 3 groups to cross the Delaware River at different points and converge on Trenton in a coordinated assault. The target was the Hessian garrison. The timing, Christmas night. Nobody would expect an attack in the middle of a blizzard on a major holiday. It was brilliant, but it was also borderline insane. The night of December 25th, 1776, arrived with a vengeance. A fierce nor'easter storm swept in, bringing freezing rain, sleet, and blinding snow. The wind howled like a banshee. The Delaware River wasn't just a river. It was a churning mess of icy water and massive, jagged chunks of ice. It was a natural barrier that seemed impassable. Washington's men, many of whom were farmers and craftsmen, not seasoned sailors, had to navigate this treacherous obstacle in large, heavy Durham boats. These were flat-bottomed freight boats, typically used for hauling iron ore, not for transporting an army in a blizzard. Under the command of Colonel John Glover and his regiment of Marblehead fishermen, some of the most skilled seamen in the colonies, the perilous crossing began. The men used poles to push away the floating ice, their hands freezing to the wood. The boats were dangerously overloaded with soldiers, cannons, and horses. The river was wider and the current stronger than they had anticipated. It was an excruciatingly slow and dangerous process. Two of Washington's 3 divisions failed to even make it across the river due to the severity of the storm. Only Washington's own force of 2,400 men managed to complete the crossing. They were hours behind schedule. The plan was to attack before dawn, but the sun was already beginning to rise as the last soldiers stumbled onto the New Jersey shore. They were soaked, frozen to the bone, and their gunpowder was wet. Some of the men wanted to turn back. An officer reported to Washington that the muskets were too damp to fire. Washington's response was legendary. Then use the bayonets. The town must be taken. There was no turning back now. Tired and cold, but driven by their general's iron will, the army began the 9-mile march to Trenton. The roads were sheets of ice, and the sleet continued to lash down. You can just imagine the scene. A ghostly column of exhausted soldiers appearing out of the swirling snow, marching silently towards their destiny. The Hessians in Trenton were completely oblivious. After their Christmas festivities, they were sound asleep in their barracks, feeling perfectly safe. Their commander, Colonel Johann Raoul, had been warned of a possible American attack, but he dismissed the intelligence, believing no army would be foolish enough to cross the river in such a storm. That assumption would prove to be a fatal mistake. At around 8 in the morning on December 26th, the Continental Army descended upon Trenton. The surprise was total. The Hessian sentries, struggling to see through the storm, were quickly overwhelmed. American cannons, positioned at the head of the main streets by the young Captain Alexander Hamilton and Captain Henry Knox, began to roar, sending cannonballs tearing through the town. The Hessians, groggy and confused, scrambled out of their barracks into a chaotic scene of gunfire and shouting. They tried to form ranks, but the Americans were attacking from multiple directions, their battle cries echoing through the narrow streets. The Hessians were trapped. Their escape routes were cut off, and they were being pushed back by the relentless American advance. Colonel Raoul was mortally wounded while trying to rally his men. Within just about an hour, the battle was over. The Americans had achieved a stunning and decisive victory. Nearly 1,000 Hessian soldiers were captured, along with a massive stash of muskets, ammunition, and provisions. Incredibly, the Continental Army suffered only a handful of casualties, with most of those being due to exposure and frostbite, not combat. The impact of the Battle of Trenton cannot be overstated. It was more than just a military victory. It was a powerful injection of hope into the heart of the American cause. News of the success spread like wildfire. The narrative changed overnight. The ragtag army of rebels that the British had dismissed as a joke had just defeated some of the most feared professional soldiers in the world. The psychological boost was immense. Soldiers who were just days away from going home were suddenly inspired to re-enlist. Thomas Paine, who was with the army during their retreat, captured the moment perfectly in his new pamphlet, The American Crisis, which Washington had ordered read to his troops before the crossing. It began with the now famous words, "These are the times that try men's souls." The victory at Trenton proved that the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot could become hardened winter warriors, capable of enduring the impossible for the cause of liberty. It restored the faith of the American people and convinced potential allies, like France, that the Americans were serious and capable of winning. This one audacious act, born from the depths of desperation, completely changed the momentum of the war. It showcased George Washington's greatest strengths, his unshakable resolve, his strategic brilliance, and his ability to inspire ordinary men to achieve extraordinary things. The crossing of the Delaware, and the subsequent victory at Trenton became a powerful symbol of American grit and determination. It's a story that reminds us that even when things look their bleakest, when the odds are stacked against you and defeat seems inevitable, bold leadership and unwavering spirit can turn the tide. It's a testament to the idea that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the greatest rewards. This moment wasn't just a battle. It was the turning point that saved the American Revolution and ultimately led to the birth of a new nation. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most pivotal moments. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of courage and leadership that shaped our world. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment below and let me know what historical event you'd like us to cover next. Until then, stay curious,